Hello, everyone. It's great to see so many people jumping on the line here. Annalise, great to see you. Cam, awesome. Drew, good to see you. Jordan, Julia, Michael, great to see you. I saw Ted was on as well. It's great to, hey, Ted, good to see you, my friend. Just great to see people piling in as we are preparing to get started here in just a minute. And as we are, I hope everyone has been having a good week so far as well. Drew, I'm seeing you now. Good to see you, buddy.
Great to see you as well.
Yeah. I'm going to give everyone, I'm going to do a shameless plug for a second, which is going to be uncomfortable. And then later, Alicia is going to say, you know, you should probably not do that on these types of things. But Drew's organization, especially for anyone who's in this space, really trying to drive social impact. We know if you look over the last year, so much has been made of how do we go from talking about our commitments to actually acting on them and showing action and driving action. Drew is the CEO of an organization called Speakable. Some of you may know the action kind of buttons that get embedded. There's a couple of organizations that do this and do this well, and Drew's organization, Speakable, is one of them. If you haven't checked them out for campaigns, I highly recommend it. Right, Alicia? That was completely probably inappropriate to just be doing a single shout out.
I'll let you have this one.
And you know, I could go further. Cam's on the line, and if anyone's hungry during lunchtime, you know, McDonald's has a great value meal. So, listen, let's get started, because you know I know you guys don't want to just sit around and listen to me talk about the various different great things that everyone on this whole entire line is doing, and really feel free though in the chat box to kind of introduce yourself and where you are. I mean, one of the things about building a community, which is what we're doing here, we're building a community with a shared value that we all have, which is how do we help educate communicators that communicating with impact, using the key principles around authenticity, key principles around truth and facts, and really trying to use communications not only for its influence, but also what it can generate in terms of societal good. We all have collectively come and raised our hands. And so we do this in multiple ways. We'd love for you to get involved in our organization, which is Global Impact Relations Network. Please know it is not a trade association. Let me just give this major disclaimer. We're not going to ask for any membership dues or fees or anything. We're building a community of like-minded people that all want to see this advance. And so one of the things that we do is we pull people together once a month in our impact councils, which you've all joined. Some of you have joined more than once, so thank you for coming back. And we tackled various different topics. For those of you who were on last month, you saw Ben and Jerry's. There are two leaders in their global activist and their US activist groups talking about how to be an anti-racist company. And before that, we had a whole focused discussion on climate. How do you move customers to engage in climate and environmental activities with you as a brand? Well, today is going to be a great opportunity for us, because we're going to end up talking about the LGBTQIA movement, the community, and how brands activate, not just in June, but how they engage all year round in supporting this community. It happens to, as we know, be Pride Month. So we thought this is a topic that we should talk about today, and we've got great guests to speak about that. For those of you just tracking along, if you see or hear anything today from our guests and you're like moved and inspired, feel free to go ahead and post it out. We're using the hashtag of comms for change. So that will also be in the chat box there. For those of you who would like to know more about the organization or participate in the organization on the various different committees, don't hesitate to pledge at impactrelations.org. And I think that is going to be the extent of my preview. So let's get into today's discussion. We have Kind. I mean, one of the greatest brands, and I know most of us are thinking, geez, I probably should have been snacking up on a Kind bar right now as well, right? But we've got two incredible leaders, and I want to just do a quick introduction to as well. We have Jonathan Johanan, who is the Senior Vice President of Integrated Communications, and he's with us. Not only is he the head of Integrated Communications for Kind, he also happens to be a board member of Goldman Sachs Relations Network. So we're doubly excited and proud to have Jonathan be one of our lead speakers today. He is with his colleague Bridget Kapersky.
Yeah, Kaspersky, perfect. Like the software.
Like the software, who is the communication associate manager at Kind. And here's the important part, is the architect behind the Snack and Give Back project, which is really focused on how Kind really gets in and try to drive empathy and inclusion across communities. And the two of them have been engaged with the whole entire company with a major kind of initiative and launch event last night and tonight, which they'll get into around really promoting and celebrating Pride Month. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. As we know, think about questions, because today with an intimate group, Jonathan's just going to call on people to ask questions throughout, and we'll just all share a great conversation. And with that, Bridget, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Brad. Hi, everyone. I'm Bridget, work at Kind. I'm right now in New York City still. So is John, and we are really the kind of traditional communications team here at Kind. It's us two representing PR and exciting campaigns. And we both have been at Kind now for 3 years, which is wild. Goes by so fast. Before I share my screen and walk you through our full Pride program that we are doing right now, just giving you all a little background on Kind and the Snack and Give Back project. So as many of you all know, our mission has been to create a kinder world since day one, our founding in 2004. So I think compared to lots of other brands, like we have that mission, that foundation, it's really been just as part of our product, and it's really kind of intertwined in everything that we do, which is so important, not only externally, but also our team. You feel it, and it's really part of our culture. And this really gave birth to the overall Snack and Give Back project, which you all may have seen from time to time. It's now 3 years old, and throughout the year, we support communities that haven't received their fair share of kindness, really with a 3-pronged approach. The first is rewrapping our wrapper to really show clear celebration of the community. We try to work with artists that are part of the community or really strong allies of the community. And then we partner with a nonprofit partner that is always supporting that community 365 throughout the year. And this is really completely collaborative. And as I walk you through our Pride program, you'll definitely see and feel that. And I think that's why people have really resonated, and the communities that we support really identify with it, because the partner is equal in what we're doing. And we always pair every single Snack and Give Back with a donation, and then a bigger sort of event or initiative to really show celebration and put the community in the spotlight front and center. And it's not all about Kind. And I think, as we dive in here, that's critical in continuing to build upon our mission. So I'll share my screen and we can walk through Pride, which is very exciting. I also hope everyone's doing well. It's almost Friday.
I know. You bear with us. We've slept like 3 hours. So if we look a little tired, that's the real reason.
Here we go. Awesome. So this is just showing the tactics, right? And this is a full 360 program, sort of reiterating what I just talked about our Snack and Give Back project, which Pride falls under our mission to support communities that haven't received their fair share of kindness from society. So we pair that, with our bar. That's kind of like the most obvious tactic that we have. Our splashy event is our lights, which we did for the second year in a row this June. It's really important, whatever we're doing externally, that we back it up internally as well, get our team members on site, get them excited. Also really ensure that people who are part of the community or strong allies are part of the brainstorming and the final execution. Of course, what is anything without influencer support in digital? For us, actually, we don't really lean too heavily on influencers in any community that we're supporting. We really lean heavily on our nonprofit partner. And for Pride, we partner with the Ale Forney Center, which is the largest nonprofit organization helping homeless LGBTQ+ youth. And what's great about them is when we first decided to really do something external for the community, we'd volunteered so much at their shelters in New York City. We actually have had over 100 team members volunteer there. So there was so much love for the organization. We know them. I'm now personal friends with lots of people there. So it was very from the heart, natural, organic to work together. And also the center is supporting people who are most vulnerable within the community. 90% of the youth that they support are youth of color. They also support a lot of trans youth of color. And I just think it's really special that we're able to use our platform to help people who are most vulnerable. Of course, sales, right? We're a business. The bars, it helps us every year. The bars get more visibility on shelves, which is great. And we include the Ale Forney Center on pack and the donation listed on pack as well. These are the lights. So as mentioned, we did the lights for a second year in a row, and we illuminate the New York City skyline right around the corner from the Stonewall Inn. So that's in the West Village of New York City. For background, the Stonewall Inn had the 1969 riots, really gave birth to the LGBTQ+ movement that we know today. So it's really important that we respectfully light up from there. And for us, the lights really symbolize that being who you are, all the shades of who you are it's really scary. It can be really dark and challenging, but when you're able to learn and explore and embrace who you are a light. You light up that night. You light up perhaps the dark surroundings and around you, depending on where you are. And also too, the lights are really taking into account of the so many trailblazers that have paved the way for us to be able to do this. And we're also, honoring those that paved the way, but also celebrating the trailblazers of today too. So I'm just gonna try to play this because you'll see from last night the grand lighting. So we'll see how it goes. Looks like it's going. Can you guys hear?
No.
John, no. Oh, here we go. Now you should be able to hear. Here? No?
No video, yeah.
Well, I'll just fast forward. It's okay if you can't hear because then you'll. So we're like counting down.
Yeah, I can't see the video. I don't know if anyone else can.
All right, no one can
No.
see it, okay. Well, we will pause the share. Sorry
So,
about
You'll-
that.
What you can't see are the world's largest, we believe, laser lights, and they illuminate all the way into New Jersey. So if you're in New York City or in the surrounding areas, even tonight, you'll be able to see these remarkable lights in the sky. And we don't believe that this has been done anywhere else in terms of rainbow lights. I'm not sure why, but we think it's an unbelievable tribute to a community that deserves the spotlight.
And how long do you do it for? Is it just for a few minutes or for the night or for the week or?
Yeah, we do it for 2 nights. So last night and tonight, and we do it from 9:30 p.m. until midnight.
Wow, so cool.
Yeah, and this year we really wanted to extend the invite for folks who are not in New York City or don't feel safe coming down for whatever reason. So we have a text to donate model this year. So folks are able to donate right now if you want. You can text PRIDE to 1-833-623-KIND, and we'll make an extra donation to our nonprofit partner. So that was sort of our CTA last night.
Sorry if I
And
missed.
this is, yeah,
Sorry, Bridget, who's the partner, the nonprofit partner?
the Ali Forney Center. And they're headquartered in New York City as well. And this is just, recap on the bar. Every year with our Snack and Give Back bar, we get more retailers on board to participate with us. And it's really funny because I was the one who created the product when I first came up with this idea. Obviously, I went to college for PR. That's what I do. Everyone was like, okay, great. It's your idea. You can make the bar. So I was like in a factory signing off on it. And every year it gets better and better. But when we first came out with a Snack and Give Back bar, which was the Pride bar, no retailers wanted to work with us. Nobody wanted to sign on. And now people have signed on, but it's just something I think you see at times throughout your career. At first, it might seem like this crazy idea, and then, you start to build and show success and love for it and positive reactions and results. And you sort of see people coming back. So this is the most retailers that we've had.
And Bridget, I would say that first meeting, and this was a couple of years ago, was able to get the bar rewrapped in the system within 6 months, and we were able to sell it through our kindsnacks.com channel. So it was a way that we could at least make it available. And I think as you start to develop these kinds of programs, it's how can you even start small and build on it over time? If we had just said, hey, success is getting it into Walmart, the program probably would have never happened.
Yeah.
And so we were able to use it as an internal engagement tool. Team members were super proud. It was a way for us to build momentum for a multi-series campaign, and also sort of get reactions and be able to adapt over time. Some things have worked and some things haven't. So
yeah, and that was the quickest we made a bar. And I think that's too like a sort of a lesson. Like if you really believe in something and you want it to happen, like make it happen. And like I had no idea to make a bar, but I was like, let me figure it out. And someone with a PR background made the bar. So yeah, it's just a great learning. If you really believe in something, you can definitely make it happen. And this was really our messaging hierarchy, because there are a lot of messages. I feel like always as communicators, we're like, all of this is so important. I need to include all of it. And this was sort of like our North Star. And really, especially for media and for anyone who was on site with the lights or on social media, the most important thing that makes our support different are our lights. So that was most important. Second was for ways for people who can't come to the lights to still show support for the community, still make an impact for our nonprofit partner, which was the Text to Donate program. And then the really two kind of like foundational messages was really about like our mission, the Snack and Give Back. Like this is a part of our DNA, a part of our team, part of our foundation. And of course, we're going to put our money where our mouth is and make a donation to the AFC. So that was really our messaging there. And I believe, yeah, that was all I had for the slideshow, but I'll go back to the tactics slide.
Yeah, and one other thing on this as well. This is part of a 3-part series. So we have a kind of quality, kind pride, and kind heroes bar. So it extended into a broader series for us.
Yeah.
Hey, Jonathan and Bridget, I'd love to jump in with a question. Having worked a bit on the Comic Relief USA with Red Nose Day and the engagement that they did, you know, with a partner in Walgreens. And Walgreens had its kind of activation around that. Are you finding, as you're adding retail partners, are they thinking about activation around this as well? Have they been engaging with you on how they can make it work with you? Or I'm just curious of how that has worked.
A little bit. I would say it's more of a standalone though, because there are a lot of retailers that are already doing pride activations or pride areas within stores. So we're able to at least build into that. I think the biggest thing for us is, look, it's a very cluttered space. We have a very real reason to do it. We didn't jump onto it because we're like, oh, let's get into pride because everybody's doing it. It was more about our history of, you know, Daniel Lubetsky, Holocaust survivor. His dad survived the Holocaust through the kindness of others. How do we create this empathy and inclusion internally and externally, as Bridget had said? So it's on strategy, it's on purpose for us in terms of the brand. And then it's like, how do we then make it authentic to us so that team members can be engaged? And then how do we stand out? So having the bar, which is iconic for us, be center for the campaign, and then build something that's really going to stand out is the hardest part. And so I would say this lights piece the last 2 years has been something that's been unique. It's highly visual. It's different than what other folks are doing. And that in conjunction with this bar, which is, I think it's a pretty visual, has allowed us to get a lot of attention and support the causes.
Yeah. And when we first came out with this bar, this was our first Snack and Give Back bar. We had never rewrapped our wrapper. So it was definitely a moment for the brand. And we have that, you know, kind of iconic, clear, transparent wrapper. We had never done it before. So when it first came out, it was, yeah, very visual way for us to show support.
So I have follow-up question, but
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
I'm also flagging to the entire community, everyone watching. Feel free, whether you want to drop in a question in chat or just like as we're kind of all doing right now, just take yourself off and mute and just flag somebody that we're in a safe place. I'm curious, right? A couple of years ago, I was in a session. It was kind of a small session with about 5 or 6 brands where everyone was talking about what they were doing around Pride. And you could tell in that mix, there were some, dare I say, that were doing something around Pride because it was going to be a great thing to make sure that their brand also supported the LGBTQIA community, but you didn't necessarily get the authenticity that you had spoken about before. Because there's a little bit of skepticism, I think, from time to time among consumers. Do you ever get challenged or pushed back? And because you have an authentic connection, how do you respond or react to any pushback that you might get?
I mean, if you want to answer it, or you want to?
You can kick us off.
Oh yeah. So I would say, look, we've and I'm knocking on wood, and we would be prepared for it as well. Like, I think you have to. If you stand for anything, you need to be expecting some sort of criticism. But the fact that this is coming from an authentic place, it was driven by team members. We have high team member engagement. It's an issue that's important to us, and it's tied to our purpose. And we're investing in this, not just with cash and with a credible partner and with volunteer hours, but with really trying to raise awareness of the issues without being overly like, this is about us and we're going to try to make as much money off of these bars. This is just us sort of expressing ourselves in the marketplace. And the sales channel piece of it is almost a secondary element. That's how it was sold in. So You know, you always do worry about that. We've done some kind equality campaigns around specific communities and kind heroes. And I think back to a couple questions in the chat of having an authentic partner that's relevant to you, validating and vetting the language around it, making sure that you're using and making sure that you're supporting it in a way that like, what we haven't also talked about is we've also leaned in from a policy perspective around things like this. So we supported the Supreme Court amicus in the first year. We supported the Pride Parade. We had 120 people in the Pride Parade. We're a tiny company in New York City 3 years ago now. So we're trying to sort of find all the different ways. We've used it as an engagement tool for people to understand of, you know, I didn't realize this, but there's a lot of LGBTQ kids that get kicked out of their homes. And it's really very, very sad. And this is a way for us to be able to sort of provide a safe zone for them and support that. So I think, yeah, I think it's really about getting team members to learn more about the issue, get engaged, have empathy, and then drive it externally. And look, people could criticize us. Is it not enough money? Is it not enough support? Are we just jumping on the bandwagon? But I think you have to sort of roll with it and not worry about it too much.
Yeah, and I think to build upon this, like the Snack and Give Back project came from the team, like the heart of the team. This wasn't something from senior leaders telling us to do. Like it came from more junior team members wanting to do this. And I think that is, you feel that it's really from the heart of our team. And we had volunteered with AFC for so many years. A lot of people knew them. It was definitely like partnership and a friendship there. And also I think, especially with like just how visual the lights are, and to John's point, it's so focused on the community first and our partner. And through working with AFC, our team has learned more about how challenging it can be, especially for homeless LGBTQ plus youth, to come out and to honestly survive. And so has like our followers on social media. A lot of them, they want to be kind, they want to be more empathetic, but this is a community they may not have known a lot about. And I think these lights are just so powerful and they're such a symbol. And through our partnership with AFC, like I recently learned, if a LGBTQ plus youth just has one affirming role model in their life, their chances of not harming themselves goes down by 40%. Like, and that's huge. And that's just like amazing. When we were down there on site, one of AFC's clients who stayed at their shelter came up to us and he was like, you saved my life. Like I was kicked out of my home, and AFC, and it's like, it's such a powerful moment. And because these lights aren't very branded, it's so much about AFC and the community. It's just so much more powerful. And I think it just makes our team more invested, and it makes the overall program so important. And we make sure to like sign on to things like John said, the Equality Act, and for our equality bar, which this year really spotlighted racial justice. You know, we really made sure internally to empower and support our team members that are part of the community. And also we donated over $100,000 to racial justice. And I just think it's very important that, yeah, like you just try to do as much as you can with the platform that you have and the skills and the resources that you have.
I have a question, if it's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to know how you chose the AFC, and how you balance maybe getting approached by other Pride organizations or other LGBTQ organizations, and what your balance is internally about maybe just focusing on one, or versus maybe having conversations about broadening that out.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we first, like 3 years ago, were just planning on doing something external, AFC was really kind of like a no-brainer for us because so many team members had volunteered there, like loved AFC. And I still remember calling them being like, will you be our partner? And they were like, yeah, like and that was like, it was so easy. And especially, I mean, it depends your organization, but I would say Kind is very fast paced, kind of still has our startup roots. And they're such a perfect partner for us because they are so quick and they approve things, they review things for us. Anything we need, they're there, and vice versa. Like anytime they need bars or me to attend an event, like we're there and we show up. and anything they need, it works. So we work together like very, very well. And for us now, I think a lot of other organizations know we work so closely with them. We really haven't been approached by any other in this space to work with us. I think if we have, like, now AFC is kind of our exclusive partner, but I would, donate bars or sign on to something to just like help out in any way that we can.
The one thing I would say is it was less about us having like a celebrity nonprofit partner with a brand. Kind is the brand. So what are we looking from the partner? We're looking for volunteer opportunities. We're a New York based. Now it's different because it's post-COVID, obviously, but mostly New York City based company at the time. We're in 35 countries, but most of our employees I'd say are here. And two, are they doing something very substantive that we can look at, that we can feel good about in terms of where the dollars are going? So those were probably the two most, and is it credible? So like, those are probably the top three. And then from there on out, that's sort of how we've looked at partners in this space.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, John. Like, I know there's some like really big partners, and I don't think we'd ever work with them because, like, personally, I want to work with some that our fans don't know about, that like really need like more love and awareness and support. And at the time, like AFC, like now I think they're pretty widely known, but at the time they were a bit smaller. So it was great to work with them and just increase awareness.
Yeah, Jonathan and Bridget, thank you so much for the great work. This is really exciting and really inspiring. I had a question that's kind of related, Jonathan, to what you said, because the question I was going to ask a minute ago was, do you feel now, or maybe you have it already, or do you think about in the future, do you need a celebrity tie-in, or do you need a pre-planned big media company partner tie-in to make this successful, or you don't think that's necessary anymore?
I personally, I mean, look, I think it's a tactic in the toolbox that any brand can do. For us, I could put a celebrity in a hot tub in New York City and get media. I mean, there's lots of ways to drive media. We want the attention to be about the issue and about kind support of it. Once you start adding, and it's celebrity X, and you start having even more, you saw the messaging, it's already complicated to begin with. So it's like,
yeah,
you're adding a lot more layers. It's less about increasing light impressions with a third party necessarily by borrowing equity for us than just finding how can we differentiate in an authentic way and still get traction. This program last year got 500 million impressions without a celebrity, without, so I think we feel really good about it. Sometimes, I mean, in this world, as we know, you've got products or brands that aren't necessarily going to get attention without attaching equity to them. It could be, so I mean, there's times you have to draw into this. For us, this particular program with this brand, we didn't feel like we needed to.
Yeah. And I feel like if we were to work with a celebrity for this, it could kind of take away from just
Actually,
how authentic it is.
We did last year. I mean, but it was, but it wasn't, it was for a different, we used him for multiple programs, and he wanted to weigh into this. So we were using him for the launch of a frozen product, which is phenomenal. And then he actually
he actually now works with AFC, so it was able to help them work with him all year long and like help build that relationship. And two, for us, because we don't even lean very heavily on influencers for any of our snack and give back moments. However, AFC within their network on their board, they do have some more influential people in New York City. So for example, some of you may know Marty Cummings. He was down on site with us, and because he wanted to be there, he was not paid. He did not get anything, no free bars. He just wanted to show support. And, he was posting, tagging us. So it's just very authentic. Like, he wanted to, and he was part of more like our nonprofit partner network, and like a fan of Kind as well. So he's now come twice.
No, that's super helpful. Brad, can I ask a follow-up question?
All right, Drew, you're pushing it.
So one thing we've had trouble with, not trouble with, but I'm interested in how you solve this problem. You're a bigger company. You went to the staff and kind of sourced what issues were important to the staff. And obviously the staff has a lot of issues that are important to them. Like, what was the process for bubbling up the ones that you chose to act on? Or how did you do that in an egalitarian way?
It wasn't so egalitarian in the beginning. I think there was a small group of us that said, hey, these are issues that we feel like we could lean into, based on, I mean, part of it was gut in the beginning of like trying to figure out like where we were. Over time, now we have a highly functioning DEI team that we weigh into, and because a lot of these issues are connected in that way, that they are influencing where we lean into and what we do in the future. They've been particularly helpful, and that's a diverse group of people from finance and from operations and from, you know, executives and people throughout the organization, to be able to say, because in each of these spaces, if you're talking about Black equality or a very specific issue, what is the subset of issue that you really want to dive into, given our relatively small scale of like, where can we really have an impact and feel good about it? So it's a good question. I don't think you can sort of survey your way through this. I think you can use input as one lever to be able to say, okay, this is where team members would move. Here's what the marketplace looks like. Here's what's topical in the media. Here's where we think we can make an impact. Here's what connects to retailers. Here's where we think we can get, you know,
like
the sort of purpose in our brand, authentic, which is probably the most important thing. What would make sense for us? You know, so those are, you know, that's one way to think about it.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
There's a question about the logo and the rainbow. Just to answer this really quickly. No, that just happened to be a coincidence. That was our first bar. It does look beautiful and match, and it was nice to be on site with,
I know our logo's very
rainbow
colorful.
bandanas, and we had all kinds of like team members dressed up last night in a good way. It was fun, but yeah, that was it was coincidental.
Oh, thank you.
So Jonathan, here's a question, and I'm posing it to both of you, but I'm going to push on you a little bit here. I want, this is a question on behalf of all the agencies out there.
Yeah.
You know, so, and you know, so I'm tapping into your roots, my friend, of being at Cohen way back in your day. Do you think when you think about building out programs like this, do you think that the internal has to start with the brief, or do you think an agency can come in, work with the team, and help elevate what's already a part of the organization's DNA? Do you have a point of view on how these things can get started?
Yeah, I mean, here's my point of view. I worked at Omnicom for 15 years. You know, 9 out of 10 presentations you make go nowhere, and part of it is you don't have the internal, like, understanding of what the priorities are, or they're not able to drive it through because there's no sponsor that really has the buy-in. That's really the biggest thing for us here. We had a direct connection to Daniel, and this was not an idea that he was like, oh yes, go do it. We brought the concept to him and coerced him to move in this direction in a good way. Like, and now he's like super, you remember Bridget, the early meetings. And I think now he's super proud of it. I think we're really proud of it. But back to your thought of, it could come from either place, but you know, based on my experience on the agency side, you know, the stars don't always align in terms of having the client that's phenomenal that can sell it, to sort of the ability in terms of the timing being right for the company itself, and 3, for it being perfectly aligned messaging wise and sort of in sort of the what the brand needs to do from a purpose perspective. They don't always work together. If one of those things is out of kilter, your program is dead. They just paid you $200,000 and then you're off to do something else. You know, that's kind of how it goes down. But you know, it is, I will say, being internal is a blessing, because although you're under the constant pressure of like, what have you done for me yesterday, which is what you have on the agency side as well, I'm sure. The ability to drive where you go, and it's no one's fault but Bridget and mine or our teams to say, if we can't sell an idea for it, I'll take that any day than propping up someone to sell it for you. It's just an easier proposition. And I like them both, but I think, Brad, I think you could be successful either way. It's just about how do you really, and for a lot of agencies, because it's 10 hours a week, you really don't get a feel of like, where is the business going? You're getting one small slice of one client without really understanding the context, and it's not your fault. It's just, you're not internal.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I appreciate the point of view.
Yeah, this is Cam. I was gonna, and you answered my question. My original question was, how on earth does Kind, really break through as, as the brand that's doing this? But I think showing the messaging then and kind of seeing how else you're activating around it makes a lot of sense. And I asked the question because there are so many times when, in my agency days or now on the client side, getting pitched big experiential ideas like this that are really stunty. And I think it's hard to, for the brand to either get credit for it in the way they want to, or to really break through. You might do something like this and, it's not covered in any type of earned, and the only people that will see it or experience it are right around you, or perhaps in this case in Brooklyn, which is awesome. But they don't know it's Kind from, the other side of the river. So I think you're so right that it just has to be authentic, authentically kind of born out of the culture of the company, or tied to something authentically. And I think what you've really done well is tie it to a relevant time where people are going to see that and want to know, is this the city of New York doing this, or who's behind this amazing light show? So kudos to you guys. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line. Like last year with the lights, we had no branding, none, zero. And a lot of people were asking, like, they wanted to know exactly like who did this, like they really wanted to know. And then this year we had like some tasteful branding with Kind and the LA Forney Center logo. And when I first showed up last night, I was like, oh my gosh, it's way too much. Like I was like fearful. And then when everyone showed, they're like, no, I love it, because now you know more of what it's about and you have more understanding of what the lights mean. And for our past snack and give back moments, we learned some of them don't land well with media, but they land really well with the community. And then you're like, oh, like it's a hard dance. Like for example, for our Heroes Bar last September, we supported healthcare heroes. And we found that through some state laws, some healthcare workers have to undergo a lot of like mental health stigma and evaluation if they even like go see a therapist. And we felt like that's really not great. And so we had a petition that people could sign for states to change their laws and really help break that stigma of mental health within the community. And we even kind of helped Florida change their laws, which was amazing. But media, it was just too complicated of an issue. They didn't understand it. Our pitch had to really explain it. And it was just too complicated, even though the community loved it. We received a lot of petition signatures, so much like, thank you. But it just didn't land with media. And we also did it near like election season of last year, and we had COVID. So media was just in general, the landscape was not in our favor. But
One cool backstory of this, which I find is, I was mentioning this to Keisha last night, or not to Nia, I'm sorry, last night, Bridget. But like last year, you couldn't do events. You couldn't actually get permits. And we were able to pull it off. And this is sort of like for our little group, is we weren't allowed to pre-promote or do media before the day before, first of all, because they would have like canceled us even having it. But if you think about Stonewall, it was sort of the police invading this gay bar in New York with transgender, it was just sort of, and then how we were able to get the permit last year was through a gay part of the police force. And so the police force was supporting us unofficially getting these lights up while in the streets, COVID, it's, there's Black Lives Matters parades that are literally going right in front of the light. So you have this mix of the history of Stonewall, the police sort of taking action, the gay police force of today supporting this happening while there's protests against the police happening right in front of the lights, all during COVID, when I'm like, should I even take the subway to be down there? But like, and it was just like a pretty wild moment of, you think about, we want to live in this black and white, everything is like how we think it is, and it's all very complicated and gray. And I think
it's all intersectional.
Yeah, it really is. And so I think even for me personally, I'm like, wow, this is a really cool program, because it allows you to really think about it's all very complicated, but if you come from this pure place of like, let's embrace our differences because the power of our differences make us stronger, you can sort of get to a good thing internally. And we recognize internally we have a long ways to go on a lot of issues, but that's sort of a key learning for me.
Well, there's a great question, and I might just ask if Michael Newworth would like to just jump in. I think it's a relevant question to ask on for both of you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thank you for sharing this great case. And my question is really about the culture of the organization and what are the characteristics of Kind that as a company that are different from organizations with which you've worked in the past that really allowed this to bubble up from the bottom up, and not to suggest you're the bottom, but it didn't come from the top down. Is my point. And so there are cultural characteristics that I believe would be helpful for us to learn about that allow for that type of activism, and in a corporate environment. Love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I would say, Dan, if Danny were on the call, he would talk about our hungry and kind values, and it's being hungry for growing the business so that we can actually deliver more kindness in the world, and that they're not, they come together, they work in tandem. And then I think the biggest thing, which is different for us today, is this idea of an ownership mentality. And so we were a, independent, privately held company. We were recently bought by Mars in December, but everybody was an owner. Everybody felt like they had a say or a responsibility to be able to say, how can we improve the brand, tackle some of these issues, and grow the business? And I would say that continues to remain, and we're going to continue to do that through sort of the evolution of us. But this idea of an ownership mentality, Bridget acted exactly the way other folks are working in this business. It's what you would expect. And I would say, I've worked for other big companies and on the agency side and on the nonprofit side, and you don't always get that sort of empowerment that people feel to say, I'm going to speak up, I'm going to speak out. It's not hierarchical. Let me see if I can drive this. If you can band together with a couple of like-minded folks, you can do anything in this company. I believe that today. And it hasn't always been that way at other places that I've worked. So I felt that from day one. I think it still continues. And this is one example of many of where we could talk about sustainability. We could talk about a lot of things where a handful of people got in there and said, how do we drive this business and brand a little bit forward? How can we be more proud of the work that we're doing? So it's something that we can talk about with our friends and family and have a legacy that we can say, you know what, that was worth the 2 years I spent here, 3 years. Yeah.
And I'll say too, like when I created the idea, like I was junior and I actually came from a PR agency. So I had only been at Kind a few months, and at my PR agency, it was very like, you stay in your lane, you do not speak up, like very hierarchical. And this idea, like it was, they were like, no, you can do it. You're going to do it. Like this is your project and it will be yours to run and own. And it was like, okay, let's do this. And also, even though the idea didn't come from the top, I think that ownership mentality and also that like activism mentality does come from the top. It does come a lot from Daniel and speaking out, like doing the right thing. He's always like being kind means sometimes like being uncomfortable and doing things that are really hard and challenging. And I really identify with that. And I think, he is a big part of that culture at Kind, kind of, don't be afraid from ruffling some feathers if this is the right thing to do. And at the beginning, we kind of ruffled feathers because everyone's like, what's happening? And who's this person doing it? And all of that.
And why are you messing up my lines that need to be running a different bar and with a different rapper?
Honestly. When I went to the factory, like, a lot of them were like, you're messing up the run. Like, 'cause a lot of people are, they're just trying to get their job done. Like, right. They're trying to clock out. And so, it was definitely a fun journey. But I think ownership and also just like being an activist, doing the right thing is part of the culture here.
Thanks for elaborating on that. Appreciate it.
So I think we have time for one more question, Brad, or is that okay? Or do you want to?
Yeah, we could do one more question for sure.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
It's been so fantastic hearing about the Pride initiative for Snack Big Give Back. I was just wondering what's next on the agenda over the coming months, up to 6 months even, for this particular initiative. Are there any other new activations planned? Just be great to hear.
We'd have to kill you if we told you.
John.
No, honestly, we do have big plans for next year. I would say, purpose is going to continue to be at the center of the brand through Snack and Give Back and through other initiatives. Like, as an example, look, we're only 16 years old as a company. We're not like this. We have 300, team members. We're still relatively small. But we started even making some initiatives on the environmental side. I think this idea of being kinder to your bodies, kinder to the planet, and kinder to communities, we are defining, refining, and getting even tighter on what that means and how we can move forward now that we have global scope and global support of Mars. So I think you're going to see bigger things from us, but I think this idea of entrepreneurial, let's make stuff happen and not let perfection get in the way of progress, you're going to continue to see. So
Yeah.
I don't have a specific program to share with you, but that's sort of where we're at.
Yeah, and also for us, like, we're still like continuing our partnership with the Ali Forney Center, and I think like part of being a good partner is helping their initiatives, and we're now part of like their corporate planning board to get more businesses involved and helping them and doing things similar to what we do, but not too similar. So I think it's also part of like continuing that conversation internally on our social media channels and being a good partner to the partners that we've committed to when nobody sees it, when we're not getting media, when no one knows about it, because that's part of being a good partner.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful.
I have to say, once again, this is why we bring this community together. We bring the community together to share, to learn best practices from what others are doing, for us to kind of engage in conversation, to get insights that are relevant that we can take back to our own organizations. And as we all, have this commitment of trying to use communications in such an authentic way that can actually help propel brands, help propel organizations, and even do some good in the world, it has been so incredible to see what you all have been doing with your initiative at Kind on behalf of the LGBTQ community. Also, but what you're doing across communities with your driving empathy and inclusion. So to Bridget and Jonathan, thank you so incredibly much for your time today, especially given that you're still activating today.
Yes, that's true.
Right. So to take time out during an activation, I think all of us understand the commitment that took. So thank you. A couple just quick housekeeping things. One, you can still text and donate yourself. Yeah, I did it while I was on the phone. It's unbelievably easy. So we can put that in the very, very easy to do, and be a part of this. Two, if you live anywhere near New York, look out at the skyline tonight and witness it yourself. I don't know how many miles away you're going to be able to see it, but it's a lot of miles.
Yeah,
right?
a lot. You'll be able to see it.
And then the other thing that I would just simply ask everyone, when it comes to Global Impact Relations Network, we want to broaden this community out, as we all know. So I would encourage you, who else should be a part of the group? Invite them in. Go to impactrelations.org, take the pledge either on behalf of a company or yourself. And that triggers a whole bunch of things. That triggers you getting all these invites automatically. It triggers you getting the newsletter, but it also now triggers a full invite to our online community, where we keep this conversation going through a Slack community, which is so much fun. We share news and announcements, best practices, a welcome to any new members, and there's an agency channel. There's also a brand channel if you guys just want to talk amongst those individual communities. We thank everyone for their time. There will be a playback to this, so we'll get this out. So in case you have team members that you think, wow, that was really great, I got great insight from Bridget and Jonathan, I want them to hear this too, you can send that along, and we'd encourage you to do so. Any sharing helps our organization. Like I said, we do not take membership dues. So what we're doing is we're trying to groundswell this up. We are out in the market looking for grants, because we know we can go further faster if we had a little bit more propulsion, but that's not to go and make a trade association. So we're not doing that. But any of your linking and sharing would be unbelievably appreciated. And the last small request. If
I
you
have one after that too, Brad, as just a very tiny plug.
close, I'll let you close
Okay.
because you should close. The small request is this. We're planning second half of the year speakers right now. So if there are things on your mind like, I really want to learn about this, or this has been on my mind, or there's a speaker in general you want it, please send us a note, directly at, brad@missionandcause.com, send it to Alicia at yulu.com or yulupr.com. But I will tell you, we're in this process right now, building out the speakers for the rest of the year. We'd love to hear what's on your mind. With that, Jonathan, floor is yours. Close.
Hey, listen, it was an honor and pleasure to connect with you guys. If you ever have any questions or we can be of support, we're here. We'd love to do the same for you guys. I did want to say we have 3 openings on my team. So if you guys know of any great communications folks that you want to send my way, we have a director, a coordinator, and a senior manager, internal and 2 external. So 1 internal, 2 external. So feel free to reach out to me, but thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you all so much. And I hope everyone has an awesome weekend.
Thanks for sharing, Lori. Great.
you.
Thank you so much. That was really great.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Great to see you. Thank you, Bridget.